A capacitor is a device that stores charge and therefore energy if a PD is applied across it. Double V and Q doubles, so they are proportional. The gradient of this graph is the capacitance of the capacitor, which tells you how many coulombs of charge are stored per volt. This has the unit farad. The equation is therefore Q equals Vc. As energy is charge times voltage, that means the area under the graph gives us the energy stored in the capacitor. As it's a triangle, the equation is E equals half QV. Substituting out Q or V with our first equation, we get the alternatives half CV squared and half Q squared over C. You don't really measure charge directly, which is why we have to calculate it using charge equals current times time. But this only works, however, if the charging current is constant. As the current will start high and fall to zero if we just hook up the capacitor to a battery, we need a variable resistor that we're constantly changing in order to keep the current constant. Once fully charged, the PD across the capacitor will be the same as that of the battery. It's worth remembering that before this point, the rest of the PD from the battery will be taken up by the resistor in the circuit. When discharging a capacitor, usually through a resistor, the PD decreases or decays exponentially, similar to nuclear decay. The equation is this: V over V0 equals e to the minus t over RC, where V is the PD at time t now, and V0 is the initial PD. You might see it as V equals V0, etc., but this way you can see that it's just a ratio which will be between 0 and 1. How much of the initial voltage do we have left? It also works for current I and charge Q as well. Thinking about it being a ratio makes it easier to rejig this for charging instead. We just want the other proportion, so it's equal to 1 minus e to the minus t over RC, where V0 is the maximum final PD when fully charged in this case. Once again, this works for charge, but current still decays when charging. It doesn't increase, it decreases, which makes sense, doesn't it? To rearrange for t, r, or c, we natural log both sides, leaving us with log or ln on the left. Yes, I can say that even though it's a natural log. Log V over V0 equals minus T over RC. This is needed when doing an experiment to find an unknown capacitance. We measure V as it changes with time as it discharges. Then we can either do a graph of minus log V over V0 against T, and the gradient will be 1 over RC, or we can use our log identities to say that log V over V0 is equal to log V minus log V0. We plot log V against time, and again the magnitude of the gradient is equal to 1 over RC. We use half-life to compare radioactive isotopes, but for capacitors we use the time constant. This is the time it takes such that the fraction of PD left is e to the minus 1, which is equal to 0.37, 37%. That can only be true when the time t is equal to RC. So t over RC is equal to 1. So the resistance times capacitance is equal to the time constant. If you're not in a rush, try and prove that the units check out. If you're given a decay graph, you find 37% of an initial value. It doesn't matter where you start actually, but the time it takes to do that is the time constant, and that's equal to RC. The basic structure of a capacitor is two parallel plates which become oppositely charged when a PD is applied. Remember, no charge should flow directly between the plates. In reality, these plates or foils are wound into cylinders, as you probably see from the designs of the ones you use in your school lab. Capacitance is proportional to the area of these plates and inversely proportional to their separation. The constant that makes this an equation is permittivity, epsilon. This in essence is a measure of how easy it is for an electric field to be produced in the space between. If there's air or a vacuum between this, it's the permittivity of free space, epsilon 0. You're given the value in your formula sheet. If there's anything else in between, the permittivity will be greater than that of free space. So we say that the permittivity is equal to that of free space times the relative permittivity of the material, which is just a number that's greater than 1. If it's 2, then that means it's twice as good as free space. We can increase the capacitance by inserting a dielectric between the plates, an insulating material that contains polar molecules. That is, they're affected by electric fields. We can represent them with just a little peanut shape with a delta plus and delta minus to show that they line up along these field lines. As a result, the edges of the dielectric will become charged oppositely to the plate it's nearest to. What's also happening is that these polar molecules are producing their own counter-electric field, therefore reducing the overall electric field between the plates and therefore lowering the PD needed to store the same charge. If you change any aspect of a capacitor, A, D, or epsilon R, you can be asked what the knock-on effects are for V, C, Q, or energy. First, you need to know if the capacitor is still connected to the battery or not. If it is, V will stay constant and Q will change. If it's disconnected, Q is constant and V changes instead. It's a bit more complicated with energy as we have 3 equations to choose from. You choose one that has a constant in it, so if disconnected we choose E equals half Q squared over C. This example here can also be explained in terms of electrostatic potential energy. Like we said, the edges of the dielectric are charged oppositely to the plates, which means they're attracted to them. To remove the dielectric, we must therefore do work to separate them. You have to put in energy. Where does that energy go? Into the capacitor. So I hope you found that helpful. Leave a like and a comment if you did. And don't forget to check out our revision app to help you test your knowledge. And I'll see you next time.